What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Brewtallyspeaking podcast. I am your host, John. This episode's guest is Jess Margera, drummer for CKY, and a slew of other projects that he's been involved in. Viking Skull, he's done the company band, just so many things. And this was honestly just such a bucket list thing. I was so stoked to get Jess on. I've been after him for years. Been bugging him on Twitter, been bugging him everywhere. Between having friends that have toured with him, kind of put out the good word. It just hasn't happened, but it finally did. And this was really, in the most truest of senses, this is a very self-indulgent episode, if I can say so right out the gate. Talking about what CKY, the band, and the videos, what they meant to me, and some of my best friends, some of which have passed away. Being from the East Coast and feeling a disconnect when I moved here to Michigan, watching those videos and feeling like a little bit of home was always, was within reach, essentially. I know that sounds kind of weird, but watching those CKY videos meant so much more to me, being not far from there and being roughly the same age as all the guys, that it's a thing where it felt like being as close to home with people that I probably would have been friends with, as far as the things we're doing, doing stupid skits and just being fucking assholes, honestly. It's a thing, and I'm sure everybody that is roughly around our age that grew up with those, and CKY the music, it is such a timestamp of your life, of your youth, being on your own and independent. The nostalgia attached to it is so heavy, but I think, like I said, for me, being from back east, it's a little bit more tied into all that for me. So this is, like I said, this is kind of a really self-indulgent episode. But I think if you're a fan of Jess, if you're a fan of the band, if you're a fan of those DVDs and the VHSs, if you're that old, you're going to enjoy this, I think. I think there's a lot to take away from this. And I think, the band has found a way to endure. And I think even beyond that, I think Jess has found a way to just be one of those old school drummers. That's something about Jess that I've always admired, is in a day and age where so many people are flashy and, have these giant, massive kits with all kinds of cymbals and, rototoms and all this other stuff. Jess is such a throwback player. I was really stoked when I think seeing him on Warped Tour, one of the last Warped Tours, he's playing an acrylic kit, and it's so simple, and it really is kind of a throwback to, I think, a lot of Jess's heroes in drumming, that the drumming should kind of be this backbone, and it shouldn't be so busy. It should just kind of be, grooving in the pocket. And for a band like CKY, I think he proves that he just has a vast knowledge of styles of drumming. You look at a song like Plastic Plan, I think showcases his penchant for pop hooks with drums. You go to something obviously 96 Quiet Bitter Beings, to think of any of those instruments not being what they are just would, I think, make it less iconic. But he's found a way to play with so many different people and to bring out and to be an advocator for all kinds of different music and bands and so forth. A curator, I think, is really the word I was looking for. So the dude has just been such a monumental part of my life as a young adolescent all the way to adulthood in so many different ways. So to finally have him on was just such a pleasure. So to kind of start wrapping all this stuff up and get you into the episode, if you would like to keep up with CKY, you can go to CKYofficial.com, Facebook CKY Alliance, Instagram CKY Music, Twitter at CKY Music. If you would like to keep up with Jess, I think his tweets are now protected, so I don't know if he's accepting any more followers on that, but either way, Twitter and Instagram at Jess Margera. Definitely an interesting follow on Twitter and all that kind of stuff if you're not following him already. Very much something I've enjoyed on that cesspool of an app over the last few years is his contributions to keeping it interesting and all that. So if you'd like to keep up with me, simple enough, Brew Speak Pod on all your social media platforms of choice. Rate, review, subscribe on whatever you are listening to this podcast on. And if you are able to do it, please do. Email me at brewtallyspeaking@gmail.com. Keep up with guest suggestions or comments about the episodes. I always look forward to when those pop up in my emails. And if you would like to keep up with Rockabilia, do such. Go to rockabilia.com. Use our code BREWtally at checkout. Take 10% off your total purchase order. And pick up some new swag. Hopefully, you know what? Actually, it'd be really, I know I said this with the biohazard thing, but I think it'd be really cool for maybe around Halloween next year. I should put it in Frankie's ear to do like an old like Escape from Hellview type t-shirt or something, something fun with those guys. But CKY should definitely do something with Rockabilia. So anyway, Rockabilia, go to rockabilia.com, use the code BREWtally, check out, take 10% off your total purchase order. Support the guys and gals for supporting this show for as many years as they have. And without further ado, let's get into my conversation with Jess, and I will talk to you all on the next episode. Let's get into this one. All right. So as of when we're doing this, it's fucking Friday. So we got to get going.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I've been wanting to have you on for quite a while. And you and I have a lot of mutual friends. More in recent years, Mr. Fanelli, who you've been out with a handful of times.
Yeah. We just saw him at Download. He was out with Weezer.
Yeah. And that fucking asshole didn't reply to my text because he's out on tour slinging T-shirts. And because I was like, oh, what's a funny story you can tell me from your time out with Jess in some capacity? Because I'm sure he's got one, as does most people that I know that know you. But now I'm just left, breaking the ice by name dropping some people that most people probably don't know who the fuck it is. But
God bless him, man. He did the BAM tours, and that was mayhem.
I saw you on two of them, and the funniest thing is we had to go to Indiana both times, and my wife, we saw the last time we saw that, and I think it was one of the last times that you guys did any of that touring, was I think like somewhere in like Hobart, Indiana, or some fuck place like that. And Jesse Camp showed up, and then it was right after you guys had kicked out Novak, and so it was just like a whole fuck Novak show.
Man, that was crazy. I was the one that put Brandon on a plane because I was like, dude, and it was so nuts. It's like I put him on that plane, and it's like I know he has nowhere to go now. Like his mom, his sister, his girlfriend, like everyone's kicked him out, but his heroin use got so crazy that I was like, he's either gonna finally get it and clean up at this point probably, or die. And I'm glad it was the first thing.
It gets so weird because that was, I think for a lot of us, and it's kind of, and this is sort of something I've really wanted to discuss with you. But it's just so weird because, like I said, like on one of the other Fuckface Unstoppable tours, my buddies in Wilson opened up for you guys. Oh, and yeah. I remember Chad, or not Chad, I'm sorry. Fuck, I'm blanking on his name. But either way, their bass player, and him and I were talking, and it was funny because he was talking about how just much of a shit show that tour was. And my wife's like, yeah, I will never, ever, ever go see anything of BAM's ever again because just always just stupid chaos and stupid. And he was like, yeah, it was weird. We were setting up for that show out at like Joliet, and fucking Brandon comes up to me as we're loading in and doing sound check, and he's like, and I was like, hey man, really great to meet you, longtime fan, all this kind of stuff. Like I think it was like one of the first shows on that run they were doing with you. And Brandon was just like, yeah, that's cool, man. You got any money or something like that? Like totally fucked him off like he was a fan. And I was like, that seems to have probably tracked, but it was just very interesting, like to hear the stories of like all of that, because the thing that was really weird is I feel like as a fan of all of the music and the bands and the people involved in it, it seemed like all of you actually gave a fuck about the music and wanting to play and wanting to be there. But it was just such a shit show surrounding it. And I kind of had always wondered, given the propensity of like the sort of ends of CKY at different times with some of the other lineups, was that just kind of old hat for you where you're like, man, I'm doing this
as long as it doesn't affect me and the playing and stuff, then I can just kind of roll with whatever.
You know, it's crazy because CKY was broken up at the time, and it was like, you know, Bam asked me to put together a band, and we had like a really solid band for a while. And then, like you said, it just kind of started falling apart as the grifters started showing up. And yeah, and honestly, for me, it was kind of like a wake up call because, you know, people would tell me like, yeah, your brother's like not doing good, man. And like I knew like, oh yeah, he's partying too hard and all that. And I was like busy being a dad, you know, raising 4 kids. So it kind of took those tours for me to see how bad it really was, you know. Because I would just kind of pop over to his house and it was always crazy. And then I'd leave, you know, after an hour or so. And I never really saw how dark it got with the addiction stuff with all those guys, you know, Brandon, Bam, that whole crew. It was just a mess. And I was like pretty naive to it, I think, because I'm busy like driving kids to school all day and doing that, you know. So that was kind of doing those Fuckface Unstoppable tours was like a pretty big wake up call for how bad it really was.
Another thing I kind of had wondered, and because this is sort of something, and I don't mean to like kind of take it into sort of a dark realm, but sometimes in doing this show, I think like where it works the best is kind of navigating some of my own things that have happened to me and kind of being like, I've noticed a similarity in other people's lives.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing. Everyone knows of at least someone dealing with addiction problems in their family. So that's why it hits so hard, you know?
Well, I kind of had wondered, because I know in losing some of my friends to various things, addictions and so forth over the years, I wonder, because it's a thing I'm really kind of working through a lot lately, is, you know, the idea that we sometimes see the thing in others that we don't like about ourselves, but we just kind of can't put that same mirror to ourselves and be like, hey, you kind of need to like fix your own shit as well.
Yeah.
That I wonder if there's a little bit of like maybe like survivor's guilt or like Stockholm syndrome of sorts of like what you went through. And I've had this person on, so I don't feel bad about just saying it because everyone knows what happened, but like all the shit with Darren and stuff like that. And then now you're kind of in, and now it's a little bit closer because even though Darren and everyone in your band is brothers and their family, this literally is your family. And you're kind of seeing something. Is it kind of one of those things where it's like, fuck, I kind of maybe need to be more involved in my own family than to be kind of a distant thing, as we kind of tend to do when we're living our own lives?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like there's only so much you can do. Like, it's totally on them. And everyone gets to that point where they want to get better in different ways, you know? Some people never figure it out. And some people, you know, with Bam especially, it was such a weird thing because it's like every, you know, addict eventually runs out of money and they have nowhere to go. Like, you know, that was never Bam's problem. He would never run out of money. And so it was like a different animal. And what it ultimately took was losing, you know, me, my mom and my dad just had to stop talking to him, and he had to kind of just figure things out on his own. And all the things that happened with him had to happen. It's kind of crazy how it worked out because it seems like he's doing so much better now. He's skating again and everything. And yeah, everyone has their own thing that they have to go through until they finally get it, you know?
I think part of it becomes sort of losing your why or losing your purpose. I know for me over the last handful of years, and especially in the last year, like I had to have foot surgery last year. And, you know, I was just on a job interview the other day and someone was like, what's your 5-year, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I go, after foot surgery and therapy, like where I constantly had to deal with overthinking and analyzing the hypothetical what ifs that never come. and then sitting in a bed for 3 months where I had to look at a calendar and go, where can I put my life entirely on hold? Like, you can't. It's great in theory to think about where you're going to be in 5 years and to plan and I understand the exercise of it, but the reality of it is there's too many fucking variables that you can't solve for, and you just need to deal with what you can in the moment. And sometimes I think, especially when you do something in a creative outlet, sometimes you lose your why, your purpose, and it takes a little while to get that fire again of like the thing that you have, because life just beats you fucking down.
Yeah, and you know it's crazy. It's like the COVID thing. Like it was such it ended up kind of being positive for CKY. Like, because you just get in the grind of like touring, blah blah blah. You know, there's like that was the first time in as long as I can remember where there was just nothing going on. Like we're all just stuck in our houses and stuff, and the first couple months of it was like, oh, cool. I get to do those projects I've been putting off for a year. And then you like watch all the Netflix shows and you play all the board games. And then you're just kind of sitting there staring at the wall. Like, and then you have to ask like the big questions. Like, am I happy? Like, do I want to, do I want to keep doing music? Do I want to do something else? And, you know, it was pretty crazy for everything to just stop like that. And I think that really like was positive for the new music coming out for CKY, because it just comes from such a crazy place of like a fire, like a new fire of, you know, I'm sure Chad had a similar experience of just like, you know, do I like doing this? And then you have to like really figure out like, yes, this is what I do, you know? And writing new music is like, it has a new paint job on it after that.
Well, I think something that might be interesting to discuss, and if you've been asked this question before, I haven't really come across it, but it's interesting because around the time of COVID and after Year of the Phoenix, Chad puts out a solo record. You're doing a lot of stuff with recording other bands, working with like Anthony Green and a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think of like, and this is a very weird illusion that I don't think a lot of people are going to draw a line to, but it sort of reminds me of when Blink was done for a little bit between the Take Off Your Pants and Jacket record. And then they ended up doing like Plus 44 and then also doing Boxcar Racer. Yeah. And then they kind of got to sow some other oats musically that I don't think they were able to do in Blink. But then when they came back and did like the self-titled record before they broke up at the time, it was one of the most ambitious and adventurous records, because I think they realized that Blink doesn't have to just be this box of whatever everyone else thinks it is. It can be what the three of them in that room want it to be. And I feel like potentially through that, it seems like, and this is just kind of from a longtime fan, I feel like Year of the Phoenix was kind of a feeling out process of what it is now for you. And I have a feeling based on doing some other things collectively, individually, but now having time in between, I feel like, and based on the one single that's out, I feel like you've kind of found something in each other, in the music you're writing. And it feels like that magic that I didn't necessarily feel like was on the other album, I feel like is back. And it has me very excited to hear what you have been cooking up over this time.
Yeah. Going off and doing side projects and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely, I think, good for you as a musician to like switch it up and jam with other people. And it's funny, like that thing you mentioned with Anthony Green, like that was another COVID thing, because I know everyone's sitting around their house, not on tour like me. So this opportunity came up to do a charity thing, and I just went big. I called everybody that, and I really wanted to get a bunch of people together to maybe do a cover or an original that had no business being with each other. and it ended up being so cool. Like to get Anthony Green to do a Ween song, and that was simply because Anthony is from where Ween is from, in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he's a Ween fan or what. So it was me and Brad Davis from Fu Manchu and a bunch of other guys. Like, none of that makes any sense. Like, like a prog emo-ish dude like Anthony is with a stoner rock, like one of the stoner rock bands on bass. And then I got my daughter to do the keyboards. And like, it was just so cool. And then another track we got Joel from Kill Switch. And then this girl I know, Greta, who does this thing Ultraviolet, and she kind of did this like David Lynch sounding Portishead-y cover of an 80s song. And
Yeah.
and to get like a metalcore dude like Joel and his brother on that, again, makes zero sense, but it turned out so cool. So that was so much fun. And yeah, just all the, Sovereign Eagle company band, stuff like that. You really like become a better musician jamming outside your world. And when you do come back, like for CKY, it definitely, you come back armed, with a lot of new tricks under your sleeve, and you bring it to the table, I feel like. But yeah, the Phoenix record, that was like, we were definitely trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And that was definitely going to Rancho de la Luna definitely had a lot to do with that. Because it was like we tried to make a Caius record, but me and Chad are big fans of like Quincy Jones funk stuff. So we tried to bring, that kind of thing. Like, what if James Brown did a Caius record or something? Like, what if Caius had like funky groove dance beats to it, things like that. And yeah, I mean, like you were saying, like that's when you get into trouble, when you start going, well, what do the fans want to hear? Like, what do they expect from us? Like, you can't think like that, man. You got to make the record that you want to hear and that you're stoked on. And then if other people are stoked on it, great.
Well, I would maybe challenge that a little bit and say I think it has to start with, you got to, like, you can't think of, I forget who it is, and I'm sure someone in a comment eventually will be like, oh, it's fucking so and so. But it's a thing to me where, I forget who it probably was, like fucking Gene Simmons, honestly, because he's such kind of a dick like this that would say this. But he's like, if you think like a fan, you're going to be a fan sitting in the stands watching a band or something to that effect. But it's a thing to me where, I was very excited about the album, because it's the first and all this stuff, and a lot of hype around what is it going to be like, and you got Dice back in the band, and just a lot of things, and it felt like to me, and again, this, like, just being a fan of music, I think this sort of happens a lot where it's like the story sort of overshadows the music, where it's like all I remember hearing about in all the press, reading everything about it, was where you went and recorded it, that you were in the desert where all these people. So I think everyone had this expectation that it's like, oh, is it going to be like Caius? Is it going to be like early Queens? Is it going to be like, what is it going to be? And so everyone's expecting it to sound like X. Whereas I think if no one, like, I think if you just would have put it out like the old days where there wasn't a shitload of over information, I think people would have appreciated it for what it is, because that was the thing, is when I heard it, I was like, oh, it's not a stoner, like a desert stoner rock record. It's kind of, I don't know, like you said, but it's funny because I think when you get really in the weeds of like who makes what, like, you're saying like a Quincy Jones type thing. And I am thinking of like, actually, I think it was Quincy Jones as well. But it's like, him working with like Kiss back in the day and stuff like that. And like, you have like Babyface working with like Fall Out Boy. You have kind of these producers who are predominantly known for a thing, and then they kind of put their touch into something else, and it still works because it lends itself, because music is music and good music is good music. Doesn't matter what it is. But I think sometimes when fans have an expectation of what something should be, I think it kind of lets people down. And then it's got to be a bummer for you all creatively because you're like, well, fuck, I was really happy with this, but now it's a commercial product and it didn't sell. So fuck us, I guess. And it kind of ruins the whole purity of being like, dude, we had this really fucking awesome experience that we were really psyched on, something we wanted to do a little bit outside the box. And I'm sorry that we didn't put out IDR 5,
How boring would that be? Like, what if Deftones just put out White Pony every couple of years? Like, I've always been a fan of bands that you don't know what the fuck you're gonna get, man.
Yeah.
Like Ween, you have no idea what the fuck. Ween does songs that sound like Motorhead, Jimmy Buffett, Bob Dylan. Like, you don't know what the hell you're gonna get, and that's like the sign of like a good band. I feel like the only band that can make the same record over and over is AACDC.
Yeah. Yep. They're the only ones, and I still can't remember because you're a little bit older than I am, but I still don't feel like I ever remember anyone being like, you know what, this is too AC/DC for me. I want Back in Black, and they did Razor's Edge instead.
Yeah, that's like the only band that I would be bummed about if they changed it up.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
I know what I want from AC/DC and just do that.
Is it kind of surprising that, to me, I feel like you guys definitely have a sound sonically, but I think genre-wise, I think you're kind of genre-less to me. Is it surprising that, 30-something years later, that people still kind of pigeonhole you as something, whatever that is? I don't honestly know if people just assume you are 96 Quiet Bitter Beings, like that song is what CKY just has to sound like. Because I think if you go through the discography, and even on like volume 1 and everything, you've never been a singular style of band. So I'm always kind of intrigued to see what does it feel like from your end of what fans actually want.
It's such a double-edged sword because, like you said, they don't know where to put us at festivals. We played the metal stage,
the 1 p.m. slot.
We've been on the hardcore stage, the metal stage, the punk stage. They don't know what to do with us, and that's kind of weird. But at the same time, I think because of that is why we've been around so long. Because it's like Primus, it's Primus. There's a few bands like that. Yeah, like it's what they are. Like, if you hear Typo Negative, it's Typo Negative. And that's hard to do. And I'm kind of glad that we kind of achieved that a bit. Like the new single, you hear that riff and you know it's CKY from 10 miles away. So
yeah,
but it has a new paint job on it because we're older and wiser now. But yeah, I mean, I dig that aspect of that. It's us, but it's got fresh paint on it.
Something I've always wanted to pick, one of your guys' brains about. It's kind of funny. I feel like there's two things that I feel like you guys did so well, but it's interesting to see the long-lasting impact of it. And I don't know if you get the credit for it that I think you all collectively deserve, but it's funny to see how something like TikTok, and I'm not on it, but my wife is on it, and I see how trends and songs kind of start building a thing, and it sort of becomes this thing where I think people are just so used to seeing it over content that it kind of, I don't even know if it's necessarily good, but they feel a part of it. I feel like what's interesting in thinking back to, I think it was CKY 2K, it basically had, the soundtrack was the demo versions of IDR.
Yeah.
So you had this vehicle where there's demo versions, just instrumentals, and people get so familiar with these songs that you're like, oh, I love this riff, I love this song, I can't wait to hear it. That you basically had what every rollout is now, where it seems like the rollout for new albums is like a year and a half long, 5 to 6 singles, basically getting the whole record before you get the record, and then you get the last little tail end of the album. Yeah. And it just seems like one of those things where when I think back to how the industry kind of is now, you were sort of the proto of it before it even was a thing how the music industry worked. How conscious were you of that maybe back then, or have you been aware of it since, like retroactively?
Not at all. We had no idea what we were doing. YouTube wasn't out yet, but somebody said something pretty interesting on an interview a little bit ago of like, I guess we were kind of like the first like viral thing, but it was just through VHS tapes and DVDs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. It was just a lot of people sharing weird skits we did or prank calls or, you know, a song and it kind of spread that way, which was like, yeah, pretty, in hindsight, a pretty crazy, amazing thing. And then, you know, on the video aspect of it, I think it was the same guy who said like, you know, the viewer feels like they're amongst their friends, you know, like everyone kind of knows someone like Rake or Rab or, you know, and in hindsight too, that was a crazy thing to hear because, you know, sometimes we'd be in like Edmonton, Canada or somewhere I've never been on the early tours and people talk to you like they know you and it kind of freaked me out a little bit, but it kind of, I kind of get that vibe of how people feel like they know us. It's like, you know, I'm a big fan of like the Broken Lizard dudes, you know, Super Troopers and Beer Fest and all those movies. And it's kind of like that. Like Farva is Hannah, you know, like my buddy Hannah. It's the same, like they're the same person. So everyone from Super Troopers kind of reminds me of one of my friends. So I kind of got that same vibe from that. And the guy was a YouTuber, like a pretty well-known guy. I can't remember his name. I'm 47. I can't remember names anymore.
I can't remember names either. So,
yeah. But he said that's what YouTubers now try to kind of do. It's like they want to set up a vibe of where you feel like you're hanging out with them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, it's interesting because like and you guys used to give in the videos used to give so much shit to this, but you know, I originally grew up out in Delaware, so I remember when I moved here to Michigan.
Sorry, bus driving by.
No, you're good.
I'm on my patio smoking.
No, you're good. It's a thing though where I feel like when I moved, you know, and I was even just talking about this at work today. When I moved from Delaware to here in the Midwest in Michigan, like it was such a culture shock, especially in the mid 90s. Like, you know, I'm not saying, and I've always said like Delaware back then was not a hotbed for fucking anything other than the airport. And that was about it.
George Thorogood.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Delaware destroyers. But it's a thing where it's like, we weren't really known for anything other than the military base and Dover Downs and the beaches like out in Rehoboth and all that. Right. And it's this weird thing where when I moved out here to the Midwest, you know, I just didn't feel like we had a whole lot of culture and anything. So when the CKY stuff started kind of getting out to us out here, you know, I remember, I mean, literally I have Wawa tattooed on my arm. I used to love, like it made, like watching those made me feel like I was back home. Because like it's shit from back home for me. Like, so when the whole like, yo, I'm standing outside of Wawa, the 1-800 collect shit, like all that. Everyone's like, you used to talk about this Wawa shit all the time. What is it? I'm like, oh, it's the most glorious thing, and I fucking love it so much. But for me, it just was a reminder of like when you take the Pennsylvania Turnpike to the Ohio Turnpike, like to get to Michigan, going the other way. When I started seeing Wawas, that meant I was getting closer to home. So it was always a visual reminder as a kid that I was close to home. So hence why I have it. But it was a thing where we were out one day and I thought we had one back home. And I was like, yo, did we? And then it was not. It just was something that had the same colors and like a bird at the top. And then my buddy's like, that's it. Like when we get back to the shop, like I'm fucking tattooing that on you. And I was like, cool, let's do it. But it's so random to feel, because my friends kind of, and through watching all of you, it kind of gave me a sense of like a little bit of my home and like the things that I loved. You guys were kind of experiencing and kind of doing just a few years older than us. So I always kind of tapped into it on a more primal level of like, I feel like this would have been my life if I stayed home.
Yeah. Dude, it's funny that the
take
only
that even
other
further
person
for
I
you
know
guys.
that has a Wawa tattoo was Johnny Knoxville. And I remember for some reason I was put in charge of babysitting him when like it was still I don't even think the show was out yet. And Spike Jones, basically put together Jackass. It's like, all right, I'm going to take the CKY videos and the Big Brother videos and combine it and pitch it to MTV. So, those guys are out in California and all that, and we're here. And it was the first time that they all flew here to film with us. And I remember picking up Knoxville at the airport and taking him to the Holiday Inn in Westchester. And he was like, "Can I just tag along with you? I don't want to sit in the hotel." I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I just did all the things that I do, I took him to Jake's bar, and that's like this bar in Westchester that's been around for 100 years. And I don't know what it is now, but beers were 50 cents. Like when
God, the
CKY
good old
first
days.
started and we're in a punk band, you go there and you dig through the change in your truck, and that's like, oh, 6 beers right there. And so he came from LA, and I didn't tell him any of this. So we walk into Jake's bar, and he's like, "Yeah, let me get a honey brown." And he's like, they were like 50 cents. He's like, "What?"
What?
He's like, "Your beer is 50 cents." And he just didn't understand. He couldn't comprehend that. So he's like, "All right, well, I'm buying everybody in the bar one then." And he did. And it was like $14 or something. And then I took him to Wawa at 2:30 in the morning to get a cheesesteak. And he was like, "What is this place?" Like beers are 50 cents. I can get a cheesesteak at 3 in the morning or whatever. So I drop him off at his hotel, and I pick him up the next day around noon. And like he set his alarm to take a taxi to get a Wawa tattoo. And I was
I don't
like,
think I knew he had one.
I was like, dude, I didn't know you liked it that much. That's a little drastic, man. But
It's really funny, and it's like it's so funny to feel like to have that, and I can understand as I get older how it probably feels like you're something bigger than what it is for you. Like it's just you're literally just hanging out with your friends and stuff like that. But like, as I said, it made me feel like I was back home. It reconnected me to a place where the internet wasn't a thing. So through these things, it's like, when you guys would like do the Delco accent and shit like that.
Yeah.
I'd laugh at that, and then I'd have to explain why that's funny, to the point where like I hadn't heard the Delco accent in a very long time. My wife and I were on a trip back from somewhere at an airport bar.
Yeah.
And I just hear this fucking asshole with the loudest Delco accent I've ever heard. And he's going, and I lean over to my wife, I go, "Holy shit, that dude's from fucking Delco." I haven't heard that, but it's like you know it as soon as you hear it, if you know it. And
it's funny. They were filming a show around here that my friend was working on. Well, the first season was Mayor of Easttown, and then the new one's Task. And they filmed it all around Westchester. And but it was so funny. I recently saw Kate Winslet, like British Titanic Kate Winslet, and she's the main character in Mayor of Easttown. And she's like, "So there's a thing that we had to learn called the Delco accent." And she's like, "It's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire acting career." Yeah, I can imagine a British woman trying to learn how to say like, "Yeah, let's go to Wawa and get a hoagie." Must be insane.
Well, I always joke too with people, about how it's interesting growing up out east. It's like the accents alone when you go out east are just so specific. Like it's like Delco isn't Philly, Philly isn't Delco, isn't Virginia, isn't West Virginia, isn't,
and then Pittsburgh
New York
is insane.
Pittsburgh, and I go, and it's just like you're taking such regional dialects in such a short amount of distance from each other.
Yeah.
I go, there's nowhere else like it in the U.S. I go, you go to the South, it's just more Southern. I go, you go out west, it's mostly transplant, so it's not really anything. I go, the East Coast is just such an anomaly unto itself. And it's like, even in my adult life, at this point, I've lived in Michigan longer than I ever lived back home in Delaware or the East Coast. But when I find East Coast people, they're my fucking people. there's just a weird, strange connection when you find him. Like a friend of mine is from Philly that lives out here, and he saw my Wawa tattoo at the bar that I work at. It's like a shitty dive bar, and he goes, "Hey, can I get a photo of that and send it to my friends?" And I was like, "Sure." We started talking, and then we were talking about like fucking Wawas. We were talking about like Philly cheesesteaks, like where's your place, like all this stuff. Talking about Ilio's Pizza. And my wife the whole time's like, for an hour, you two were talking about shit I had no fucking idea what it was. And I was like, yeah, it's a thing. It gets really really specific and in the weeds. Same with like Hearst potato chips. Like I still think one of my favorite things was having Fred from Now Back and Taking Back Sunday. I booked a show for him.
I just saw him.
He's such a great dude. But I remember he called me, his phone cut out because I was booking a show for him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go now because like his phone died. So then I started having dinner, and then he calls me back. And at this point, I'm about probably 5 whiskeys deep. And then I'm like, he's like, hey man, sorry, like blah, blah, blah happened. I'm like, so we're kind of going through some other things. And I go, hey Fred, I got a really weird request. And he goes, yeah. And I go, since you're coming from Philly, can you bring me Hearst potato chips, please? And then he shows up. I'm at the bar waiting for him to show up. And then he like taps me on the back. He's like, hey, hold on a second. I got something for you. And then goes and brings me bags of Hearst potato chips. And I was the most stoked that I had completely forgotten all about it, but kind of speaks to the character.
He's a real
Fred.
one, man. That's the thing. Being in music for almost 30 years, you meet so many snakes in the grass because that's just how it goes. But, when you meet some real motherfuckers, it means a lot.
I think that's been the other thing, too, that I think speaks to the volume of the integrity of all of you guys is it seems like for as whatever undefined as you all are in your career, no one knows where to stick you, that everyone that has, I think, a lot of credibility, musically, personally, whatever, they all fuck with you. Like if you look at the superstar projects you've been a part of, it's like you're not getting an Anthony Green if like you suck, like musically or as a person.
It's funny. I didn't know this until kind of recently-ish, but apparently Chad is the reason Anthony does music.
Oh, really?
That's what he said. We were playing probably one of our first shows ever at a skate park in Doylestown. And the guy wanted us to play for like 90 minutes or something. And all we had was volume 1, So the last 30 minutes, we had to just make up a thing. So Chad came up with this thing called Army of the Forks. Okay. And it was just noise rock, like improv noise rock. You just pick anyone. Hey, kid, come here. You're on drums, So Chad did that to 15 or 16-year-old Anthony Green.
Oh, wow.
You're on drums, kid. And Anthony was a drummer at first, apparently, but he found out he was a much better singer than a drummer. But he said, I just like the feeling of playing, to people. And that got me started on doing this. Like Chad making me play drums on complete crazy noise rock for 15 minutes. That did it for me.
I often think about I guess I should pose it to you. Do you ever think about really the impact that you've had musically on people? Like I don't want to make you feel old, but it's like you've been doing this long enough now that there are people that are probably touring that they would, I'm sure you've heard the story. Like if it wasn't for IDR, if it wasn't for this song, this riff, this whatever, like I wouldn't have picked up an instrument. Like, is it wild to think of the impact you've had?
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Like to hear certain bands say that, especially massive bands have told me that. Like the Royal Blood dudes, I guess, was the first show we ever played in England in 2003 or something was in Brighton, the town they're from. And apparently, I guess that was their first gig was Brighton in 2003. And I mean, you can definitely hear it in some of Royal Blood songs that they kind of have that octave-y sound.
Yeah.
And the Avatar dudes from Sweden, which those guys are like shredders, man. It's crazy. And, they just barged us at the Alternative Press Awards we played 96 at our high school talent show, you know? And it's crazy to hear that. And I'm now a fan of all those bands, you know?
I think it's been crazy because like I know it's not just a you thing. It's not like I said, it's you can't pinpoint it necessarily on any one person. I think it's kind of a collective because watching all of the various videos and stuff like that, you guys were also complimentary of each other and what you all offered to each other, with Deco kind of showing you guys more obscure comedy stuff, with you showing Bam and everyone like this band's really rad, and then Bam getting into other stuff and showing it to you.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because you sort of were all collectively tastemakers for different things. And I think like for me, I love kind of giving credit where it's due. Like doing this show over the almost 10 years now, I've gotten to talk to a lot of people that I've long admired. And every year this comes up around the anniversary of his passing, but, getting to talk to Hank from Turbo. And I remember like, I saw them on like my 23rd birthday, and that was like the first birthday where I ever did the basic bitch thing of like, it's my birthday week, buy me a drink. And it fucking worked. Like everyone just kept getting me hammered. So it's like, I remember seeing them on my birthday, like in Detroit at Smalls, and like not a whole lot of people were there, but like that made it even better. And like, Hank and Happy Tom and all them were like, I'd be like, oh, it's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday, sexy boy. And stuff like that. It just made you feel even better. And, getting like drinks bought. But I remember talking to Hank and being like, you're basically an icon for body positivity. Like, I don't know if like, you were, chubby dude embracing like all of this stuff. And it was just so funny to like have the publicist send me a text right when I was doing that. Like, what a great fucking question. Holy shit. And it just was like this weird thing where it's like, I don't know. I've always thought of that. Like, they embrace, being kind of dad bod beer bellies and all this, like always have, the denim. And so it's just crazy. Like, it's one of my prouder memories. We didn't get to talk for a long time, but had it not been for like all of you guys putting some of these bands on, all of our Raiders collectively, like, it means a lot, as a music fan to in your travels, bring this like tribal knowledge. Like, I found this cool thing. Let me share it with you.
Yeah, man, the Hank thing was so trippy. He was doing his solo tour, and I just literally got off a plane from Iceland. And the first text when I turned my phone back on when the plane lands is Hank, and he's like, yo, bro, where are you? We're playing Lancaster. Isn't that near Westchester? I was like, oh, dude, I just landed in Philly airport. He's like, well, get here, man. Like, come up and play All My Friends or something. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was the last thing I wanted to do after being on a plane for, And I'm so glad I went, man. Like, I just went right there from the airport, and I got to hang with him, all night and catch up with him because it's been a while since I saw him. And then he kind of was like, yo, dude, we got to like jam some stuff, like me, you, and Chad, And like everybody kind of says that, like an empty invitation thing, but like he meant it, man. As soon as the tour's over, he's like, all right, send me some tunes. So Chad and I sent him a couple songs we were working on, and he ended up picking that one up from that was on Thoughts and Prayers. And but yeah, it was so trippy because like I was literally tracking Hammond organ on that song when Happy Tom or somebody texted me that he died. So it was just so crazy, like sitting there listening to his vocal tracks, like, dude, like, is this the last thing this guy sang on? Like, it was such a mind fuck. But man, I'm so grateful that it happened,
It's something as I've, like I said, in doing this, I've gotten to befriend a lot of people that I was a big fan of at first, and then subsequently crossed over into being friends with these people. And it gets kind of interesting because you end up kind of just, sorry, it's kind of hitting me as I'm trying to say this. It gets kind of trippy because I think when you sort of get into this world where it's like you don't see these people that often. You understand the importance of quality time with somebody.
Yeah.
And that I feel
But
like
when you do see them, it's like no time has passed.
100%. And I think the thing that gets kind of hard is, you know, speaking of Frank earlier, you know, I remember going when he was with Pennywise and on Pennywise Rancid tour, and I drove 2.5 hours to Detroit to go see him.
Yeah.
And then like a bunch of my friends were like, "How was the show?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I sat in the lobby with Frank and watched the Yankees game, and we just shit talked each other."
Yeah.
And he was like, and made fun of, you know, fans. And he was, and people were like, "You drove 2.5 hours to just sit in the lobby?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Why would you do that?" I was like, "Because that's my friend and I want to see him."
Yeah.
And I don't think sometimes people understand, you know, the putting the effort in, but I feel like when you're in that realm, you understand like those are the things you do if someone really means something to you. That, you know, as soon as you were like, I just got off the plane and I go, I already know you went and did it. I already know you did. And I know it was the last thing you wanted to do. But, you know, and I think as a result of losing a lot of friends, I think that's why I push myself to go do and get those experiences and have those memories, because I'd rather not be on the other end like I have been, where I'm like, I really fucking wish I would have gone and done that thing one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that happen. You know, what if I didn't go to the Activision party in 2002? Would have we have been on the Tony Hawk game? Probably not. And I didn't feel like driving into LA, you know, and doing all that, but I did it. And what would happen if I didn't?
What is, you know, now just kind of fan servicing myself a little bit, and probably those that are going to watch us in down the road. But when you think of those like chance encounters, like what is something that you literally think like there's just no way that this ever would have fucking happened if I would have tried to make this happen?
Damn, I don't know. There's so many of those.
I feel like you guys specifically have so many instances like that I was like, it just kind of is baffling. Yeah.
Somebody asked me that on a couple interviews ago. It's like, did you notice like when all these things were happening? It's like, no, we were just going with it. And it was such a perfect storm of events that it's crazy to think about. But yeah, at the time we were just doing what we do, and you know, yeah, Guns N' Roses tour, sure. Oh, cool. Yeah, that was crazy. You know, just it was so many of those crazy things that, yeah. But like I said, when you're just working and doing it, you don't take it in as much as you should, I guess.
Kind of shifting gears, because I again, you know, we were talking a little bit ago about how, you know, you guys kind of were the proto of a few different things, you know, as far as like rollouts of albums and music, and then even sort of the thing of like reality TV before that was even a thing, with the CKY stuff, and feeling like you were a part of a friend group. You know, you guys filmed yourselves doing a lot of really dumb shit over the years that still exists on the internet and so forth.
Yeah.
Growing up now with kids, and growing up with them probably in the beginning of the internet and all that kind of stuff, was it sort of hard to maybe be like, hey, like, don't do a lot of this shit when your friend literally was shitting while running? Like, that exists on the internet. Like, you doing X, Y, and Z exists. Like, do you feel like it kind of helped you kind of prove the point of like, don't put something on the internet because it can exist forever? Look at me and my friends. Or does it's
kind of funny because my kids do listen to me, like, you know, whenever they're doing something that a teenager does, and I'm like, let me tell you why that's a horrible idea. Trust me, I learned the hard way. And they usually take my advice. I saved them a lot of pain, I guess.
I just often wonder, because it seems like one of those things. I know as I've gotten older, you know, my parents, and I think and most parents will probably try to steer you from making stupid decisions and bad repercussions of them. Yeah. But you're one of the few that I can just literally be like, things exist on the internet that I sometimes maybe wish did not. And the internet wasn't even a thing then, but we filmed it and put it out. So just make smart decisions with what you're doing.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget, and I'm just talking to, like, you know, a school parent or something, and they just get weird. And then I'm like, oh my God, they Googled me. That explains it. Because I'm like, what was that about? You know, that was very strange. Like the first couple times I met up with them, it was normal. And then now they're very odd. And the only conclusion I could draw is eventually they decided to Google me.
It's so amusing to think about how some of this stuff has a lasting impact. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've been going out for interviews recently, and in some cases, like doing this show, I'm proud of what I've done over the 10 years of doing it in 500 episodes. Like I think it is all the things that a job technically would want, like self-starter, consistent, like all the things.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, God, if someone hears, like, you know, I was telling a guy yesterday, I was like, because he's like, oh, like, what's something crazy that's happened? You know, like, who do you have on? I go, I usually talk to musicians, and it's kind of about life shit in general.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, what's the craziest thing that ever happened? I go, well, I had Stormy Daniels on. And he goes, wait, like that
Wow.
Stormy Daniels? And I was like, yup. And he goes, what'd you talk about? I was like, well, she's a medium. So we talked about like that stuff. And he was like, oh. And I go, but yeah, I took a nap one like Saturday. And then I woke up from a text from her, and then I opened my social media, and like I just had like a shitload of like Twitter notifications and like all this stuff, because apparently whatever one of the court cases she had going against Trump, like they used my show with her, and then like one or two other ones to show that she was mentally unstable to stand trial.
Wow.
And that it should, and so it's like, here's a real court document with my show and the link to it and all that shit. I go, so I mean, that's something you just don't expect from doing a thing.
This podcast was evidence.
Yeah. But I also think of it at times where I'm like,
Your Honor.
Yeah. And I often sometimes think about it, like if someone were to go through and be like, oh, you heard me talking about doing acid and how like teamed with therapy that I've done, like it's a really good tool to kind of like work through your own bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, someone might hear that and be like, oh, what the fuck? And then I'm like, well, I show up to work, I do a thing. Like, I'm sorry that my extracurriculars maybe aren't what are ideal
I'm
to you.
still apologizing for things we did 20 years ago, apparently. Like, we just played Scotland a little bit ago, and the security guard's just looking at me with this, like, death stare. And eventually it got so weird to the point where I'm like, hey, man, everything all right? Or he's like, he goes, you got a lot of fucking nerve showing your face around here. And I was just like, whoa, what happened? He's like, what do you mean what happened? You don't remember? I was like, no, I don't at all. He set the couch on fire backstage and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I believe you. I don't remember that, but sure. And if you're worried about that again, you know, we're probably just going to have a couple beers and then go to bed. Things aren't like that anymore, but yeah, sorry.
I think I even remember in An Answer Can Be Found liner notes back when that was a thing. I feel like you guys apologized to the city of Grand Rapids or the Grand Rapids Police Department.
Yeah,
so it had to, what happened at the Orbit? Because I assume it had to have been Orbit Room or maybe the intersection.
Yeah, it was Orbit Room, and it was Monty Connor from Roadrunner Records, and I guess the rest of the band put their thanks list together, and I was the last one, and so he literally texted me, and I was on tour with Clutch. Well, I was in Vikings Call. We were opening for Clutch at the Orbit Room, and Hannah, who we mentioned earlier, was our bus driver for that. And he hit the wrong thing, like to lower the hydraulics.
Yeah.
He dumped the pisser
Oh.
all over the parking lot. And it was freezing cold because it's Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
And it just turned into a lake of piss.
Pissy ice. Yeah.
Yeah. So knock at the door. And it was actually New Year's, and the cop is like, "What the fuck?" You know. And me and Hannah were like, "Officer, we're so sorry. We hit the wrong lever. We were trying to lower the bus, but we hit the wrong thing. And you know, we're so sorry. You know, we'll pay whatever fines or, you know, obviously we screwed up big time and sorry." And the cop's just like, okay, it's the easy mistake. Happy New Year. And he just let us go. So I texted back to Monty Connor from Roadrunner. My thanks list is just the Grand Rapids Police Department.
I always wondered. I think maybe you guys had said something about it somewhere, maybe, but I just was like, I couldn't remember what it was, but I always just thought it was very weird because, like you said, that kind of was the only thing. And I was like, that's a very weird shout out, especially because like you guys don't typically play Grand Rapids that much. So very weird that it apparently left some sort of an impact on you that you were like, you know what, that shout out Grand Rapids and then the police department.
Yeah. Monty's like, what? No one else? I'm like, no, just Grand Rapids Police Department. And everyone else's thanks list is a mile long, and mine is just one line.
Well, like I said, that's why it always stood out to me. I also remember, I think one of the funniest things too, and it's so funny, and I remember telling Jim this when I saw him at a small bar next to my house in Lansing when I lived there. But I think one of the funniest things I've ever seen in the pomp and circumstance of rock and roll and putting on shows and shit. I remember you guys were out with goddamn, I am just having the shit brain today. I'll sleep after working a bar shift last night. But Jim from Fireball Ministry, there we go. You were out with Fireball Ministry. The whole band starts setting up all their stuff. Has like the overhead music playing, and then like gets off stage, and you're like, oh okay, like, and they look like techs essentially. So like you're like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
Then here comes this like big ass intro. And it's them, and they just came out, and I was like, that is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen. Like a band setting up all their own shit and then being like, you know what? Instead of just starting, we're going to go off stage and then come back and then be like, grand intro.
Yep.
And I thought that was the funniest fucking thing.
I feel like their intro was the Conan the Destroyer intro music.
Very grand and all that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what assholes you guys are for just doing that. I don't know what else thought it was that funny other than me, but that has always stuck with me where I'm like, that's a very amusing thing to do.
God, I love Fireball, man. They're so good. But yeah, that was I can see how that would be funny.
I mean, yeah, just one of those things to me where it just kind of shows how stupid the whole thing is, where it's like everyone takes it way too fucking serious. It's very, and I think that's why I laughed at it, because it was so Spinal Tap, where it's just like, you're just taking the piss out of all of it. And most people watching this probably are not even looking at you guys on stage when you're doing that. They're not even paying attention to anything. Probably don't know what the music is.
But if you know Jim, you're like, oh, the Conan soundtrack. Yes, of course.
Yeah, it makes sense. Kind of feel like I'd be a little bit remiss. Earlier you said that you guys have some new stuff cooking up. Is this kind of given the fact that 2025, everyone kind of does the sort of teaser single into let's see how. Actually, let me back it up a little bit, because this is something I've kind of learned recently, because I always bitched about these long rollouts. Now I don't fucking like them. And I learned, because in the day and age of streaming, so I feel like this is a good learning lesson for people if they don't know this, that in the day and age of streaming, kind of the reason for the long rollout is because albums sell for shit. So this allows you to build up streams. So when you put out the song, eventually it kind of gives you a head start on the numbers. So I understand now why bands do it. Is this essentially kind of the same thing, where this is going to be a lead off single, and then over the next couple of months, we'll get a slow trickle into an album announcement?
I think it's kind of just the ADD problem.
Fair enough.
Which I have now too, it seems.
All the Tylenol.
Yeah, I mean, when you put out a record, a lot of it just goes, falls by the wayside, and you're lucky if people listen to 4 minutes of music these days. And why would you bust your ass and release 40 minutes of music when the majority of people are just going to listen to 2 songs, maybe? Yeah, the album format, which plenty of people still like the album format. I do, but I understand how it's harder for people to sit there and listen to 40 minutes of music. And I guess it's kind of just the way things are going, and I don't question it. I'm just like, yeah, okay. Release a bunch of songs first. I don't know, you know.
Well, it's interesting because like Lurk from Lambgoat, the guy that runs and owns Lambgoat, and he has a podcast that maybe one of you guys will end up on if you haven't already. It's funny because he went to the AFI show last night. And he goes, AFI were selling CDs signed for $15, and I go, I guarantee it's for one of two reasons. Physical still technically is worth more than X amount of streams. Like it takes an ungodly amount of streams to equal one physical album sale. Right. And I go, so for $15, you can push a shitload of those, sign them, whatever, it makes it more valuable. And I go, so it'll drive up the numbers of your first album because, you know, you can't do the old bullshit that, you know, record labels used to do where it's like Prince has a new album out and a tour and he's got the #1 album in the country. And everyone's like, I didn't fucking buy it. Who bought it? Oh, it was packaged in with your ticket price. Like you can't do shit like that anymore. So I was like, this feels like an old school marketing technique to drive album sales, to make the album keep charting while on a tour, while, you know, the band's kind of hot. And I go, also, I feel like it just detracts from something that takes you a couple of seconds to do backstage for that show, allows you to undercut the people who are going to stand around and then resell your shit online for hundreds of dollars and fucking scalp your fans. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people still want a physical product. Like I definitely do. If there's an album with like a bunch of good songs on it, like I need to own a thing of it.
Yeah.
I feel like enough people feel like that too, that makes it sense to do that. Some people probably just want a souvenir of the show and they don't want a shirt or whatever or a hat. I don't know. But yeah, I'm just grateful for people that still want vinyl or a CD or whatever it is, because that's how we get by.
Kind of the last couple of questions for you because I don't want to keep you too much longer. Although I could bullshit with you for a while. One kind of a really stupid question. You know, everyone, and you can kind of see them a little bit behind me, you know, bands now are doing beers, they're doing tequilas, whiskeys, all this kind of other shit.
Yeah.
What would CKY be as a beer? What would maybe not necessarily like a brand, but like just as a flavor profile, like taking what you are sonically and putting it into a different medium, what do you think CKY would be?
I'd probably try to replicate the Yingling recipe as much as I could.
Oh my God. So here's another funny thing since you bring that up. So like I just said, I work at a bar. We just got it here. I think literally today we're tapping it. And the amount of people who are fucking amped on it, I'm like, it's not that, I don't know. It's not that great to me, but like I also grew up around it. So it's not this like mysterious thing I can't get. Right.
I would have to have my dad FedEx me cases of it when I lived in LA. Because I don't know if there's heroin in it or something, but like after being in LA drinking Coronas for a while, I'm like, I would literally stab an old man on the train for one Yingling right now.
Yeah, I'm hoping the bubble kind of gets burst out a little bit, and then everyone just kind of isn't like so fanatic about it, because it's just like I don't know, but I'm the same way with other shit where it's like, oh my God, like like living here, like I said, like we got Hearst potato chips here, and I'm like, we get the most dog shit flavors like ketchup, like fuck you with ketchup. That's I so just stupid.
Got smoked brisket at the market today. It's interesting.
When we were down for my grandfather's funeral a couple of months ago, I just stocked up on a bunch of chips, and I saw a bunch now where I'm like, that's like steak and onions. You're like, who the fuck wants that? Like, who's like, you know what I want as a chip? Steak and onions. Fuck you.
Yeah. There's actually a spot right next to the machine shop in Flint, I want to say.
Yep. Yeah.
It's definitely a Michigan style cheesesteak, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some good shit like that, and we've even found one because Atlanta is like one of my wife and I's favorite cities to go to. We found a spot that stays open until like 3:00 over in East Atlanta, and they make disgustingly good cheesesteaks.
Yeah, it's hard to find, but there's spots all over.
Yeah. One of the other last questions, and I know you probably get this ad nauseum. Actually, I have two questions because there's something else I actually want to bring up that's a little more serious. So I'll save my other stupid one, and I'll ask you kind of a serious one.
Okay.
I have found it really interesting, sort of your, and forgive kind of how this is going to sound. I think there is the perception of who you are based on your online persona and the old CKY videos and such. I mean, kind of even going to like the Scotland thing where you're like, that's not who I am anymore. It's been really interesting to see the transition of how you use your social media, especially on Twitter, in the last handful of years. Was there a conscious decision to kind of showcase more of that side of you? And was there kind of maybe a little blowback either from I should say maybe a trepidation and kind of being more vocal about your political leanings and all that kind of stuff and being outwardly spoken like that?
I think I didn't have Twitter forever, and I randomly just was like, you know what? I'm going to get a Twitter. And it's so political on there. Everything is, mostly. And I really could give... Having kids, like, makes you start to care about, you know, things like that. Like, what the hell's... What's it going to be like when my kids are my age, you know? And my Twitter kind of, at this point, just serves as documentation for my grandkids or whoever to know that I wasn't okay with what's happening right now. That is the main purpose of my Twitter. Just a record of... Because in history, I think it's going to be like, you know, everyone remembers, like, the people who were outspoken about Vietnam and blah, blah, everything, you know. So I just want that to exist for when I'm gone, for my grandkids and whoever to be like, oh, dude, he was fucking pissed. and I don't care if I lose fans over it.
No, I just think in this, and you know, I think it like, and this is kind of going to be the other side of that, was when seeing it, it feels so authentic to who, I'll at least say, you have always presented yourself in an online sense of, even back in the, you know, the AACKY days and stuff like that, where, you know, you were vocal about, you know, and even on like Radio Bam, like just being like, the record labels suck, Island sucks, like here's why everything is fucked, let me tell you. You've always taken that stance, but it was more in, and I don't want to say superficial things, but it's not things that the majority of people are going to understand or give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't going to, like when you bitch about all the bullshit with Island, most people aren't really going to care.
Right.
That want to know and understand why it's important for artists like yourselves to speak on the shit deals, the bullshit that you have to endure to be a band, even at this small of a level. You know, well, I think it's important.
The early days of the band, definitely we had this punk rock attitude, us against the world. And we had a chip on our shoulder of the music industry because we didn't get popular through the music industry.
Right.
And they hated that.
Yeah.
They don't like it when you don't need them.
Yeah.
And eventually it got into a bidding war between Interscope, MCA, Island, and one other one, because we sold whatever it was, 50,000 CDs, and we weren't in record stores.
Yeah.
We sold them at skate shops and surf shops and shit. And the music industry was just like, what the hell is that? And they learned more from us, I think, than anything. But we definitely were like very aggro about all that, and we hated them because, you know, we didn't come up through their outlets like every band does.
Yeah.
But these days, I have respect for anyone that does music now. It's not easy, man. It is not an easy job.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, you know, kind of like I said, in following you on Twitter for a while, it's a thing where I commend you, where so many people are afraid to say anything one way or the other because they don't want to alienate potential fans and shit, that it's like, this is who you've always been, as far as I can tell from an outsider's perspective. And I always have more respect for people who do that.
It's a bad career move to do that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I've been told.
Yeah.
But our whole career has been bad career moves.
Well, I mean, it's kind of funny because like I get into the thing sometimes. Like I was trying to get somebody on, and I call it the showing your dick. Like, do you want to fuck? Do you want to fuck me now? Like that you see who I've had, like all this kind of stuff. Because you kind of got to like earn your sing for your supper of sorts. But there are times where it's like you could just do a quick Google search, and I would hope that the people that you can quickly see on there. I've been around long enough that I'm going to pop up on a lot of different sites, and it'll show you like what I've done, good, bad, or indifferent, but it just kind of becomes this thing where it's like, sometimes it's like people are so worried, like, well, what are your TikTok followers? I'm not really on TikTok. I have one. I sometimes try to use it and then I go, this thing's fucking stupid. I'm done. Because again, sort of like you're saying about people want to hear an album. I'm that way. This isn't a clip thing. Like I'm trying to get better about doing it. But to me, I'm always like, well, someone's like, well, your clip's like 3 minutes long. I'm like, well, yeah, because I want you to hear the whole fucking thought. And then that's supposed to drive you into the thing. And they're like, well, no, it's supposed to be like 30 seconds and then leave you on a cliffhanger. And I'm like, well, if you're not even gonna watch 30 seconds, how are you gonna make it even an hour? Like that's fucking dumb. Like I'm trying to pander to an audience that I don't even want and doesn't even want to imbibe in my shit. So like, who cares?
Well, it seems like podcasts are such a thing now because, like, there's so many things of like, I want to hear, what Bernie Sanders thinks about this. Yeah. And if it was on a radio show or like a traditional thing, it's like, oh, you got 2 minutes to explain your healthcare stance. That's impossible. Yeah. A podcast, he can take 30 minutes an hour if he wants to explain it in great detail. So that was why I'm so into podcasts these days. It's like, I want to hear all of it,
I feel like, it's funny. Someone has over the years been uploading like old Radio Bam onto YouTube. And it's so funny as I listen to that, trying to get out of like my own cycle of what I like do, that it's so funny when I listen to it. I go, God, again, you guys are so ahead of a future trend. Like you essentially were podcasting just in a different way of before it was podcasting, but that's all it really was.
Satellite radio was a new thing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I often credit your brother too for creating the ADD style editing that exists in everything now. And I was like, again, people don't think that that's where it comes from, but you watch, like I watch so much like Adult Swim, essentially like the humor of Adult Swim.
Yeah.
The foundation of a lot of it was, I think, the CKY editing of how the jokes were.
That was such a huge part of it. Definitely.
Yeah. So kind of on that, my last kind of stupid question that I'm sure you get asked all the time, but I think I come from it from a different perspective. Because of CKY and what it has meant both in band and in the videos, and they're just so tied to one another, whether anyone wants to admit that or not, they just are. Is it weird to still, I think at this point, probably at least 20 years. I mean, it's been since I think at this point I've been out of high school for almost 23 years, 23 years. Yeah. So it's been about that, at least 20. Is it weird that people still want another CKY? Like, I don't think they understand what that really would be at this point. But is it weird that people still want that and still are kind of shocked to maybe learn that the collective of all of you are not as friendly and don't hang out every single fucking day like you used to back then? Is it weird to exist for people in such a finite timeline of your own for people?
It's funny because we did this live stream concert like every band does during the COVID lockdown thing. And it was the first time in a really long time that I got everybody back together to do something, Rab, Rick, Bam, Hannah, Lord Bataro, like Shipbird, and yeah, it was just like so much fucking fun. And it's like we haven't done it since, but we're like, we need to just keep doing this. It's so fun. It's like no time has passed, But yeah, it's like there's a lot of things that wouldn't work now as like 40-something-year-old dudes. We'd have to get creative, It's a thing, like the live stream thing, all the skits and stuff in between worked well, and I think people dug it. So we could probably do some more stuff like that, you know?
I just think it's interesting on two levels, because it's, again, you know, the show I try to kind of throw out some of the things I've been going through and kind of be like, how does someone else navigate these same things that I feel like you're going through? And I think one of them was, you know, I have some friends still from back in high school, and there's been a couple of relationships I've had to kind of put boundaries around and just not be around, because they're not, the return of investment isn't really worth it. Like, if you really look at the relationship and it's like, what are we doing? All we do when we get together is just rehashing shit from 15 years ago. And I know I'm not that same person. I've actually lived a life in between that 15 years.
Yeah.
But when you come around me, you only see me in this small bubble of your life. And I don't know if it's you holding on to something and those are the best years and that's kind of sad or whatever. Like, but I also can't be that for you forever. And I don't think that
all my OG friends, is two scenarios. Like, it's good to see them, but we clearly went like this. And then there's people that, I mean, we must sound insane to any bystanders. Listen, me and Shitbird or me and Hannah could have a conversation about just using 80s movie quotes or, you know, Chevy Chase things, or like just random shit, stories that people were like, are they speaking English? Like, so I like definitely appreciate those people. There's only a few of them left.
I'll end, but we'll wrap up on this, because I think, again, like, I like to kind of give people kind of flowers in real time. So going back home for my grandfather's funeral was kind of, I mean, just beyond the shittiness of that. There was it was a trip, because I had an epiphany of like, this is where some familial trauma shit came from, where I was like, oh my God, it started here. Like, what the fuck? And I was kind of in a pretty shit mood for the rest of the trip. My wife and I drove back to Philly to fly out of Philly. And we stayed at a place in in Westchester, but just outside of like where the downtown was. But I could see the fucking water tower that says like Westchester from our hotel. And I sent a text to one of like my like lifelong friend. And I just wrote, people in Westchester wouldn't say that. People in Chester wouldn't say that. And then like, it's such a stupid throwaway fucking thing that, you know, your brother said to your dad, but it's a thing that I knew would just pop him real hard. And then he was just like, you let your dumb shoe left a fucking and like just this thing. And it was like the only thing in that last couple of days that like put a smile on my face and like made me not be angry at the situation I was in. So thank you for being a part of all of that, for making me feel like I had a piece of home, that I could reconnect with these people that are still some of my lifelong friends. I know you probably hear these things all the time, but as I have lost a lot of people, it's important to tell people like what they mean to you when you have the opportunity to. So I'm very excited that you guys are still around. I'm very excited we finally got to do this after I've been punishing you on Twitter for years to do it. And this is the part where, you know, I have you plug whatever you would like to online or anything.
Right on. Check out the new single, Can't Stop Running. There's another one coming soon, and it's totally different than that.
Awesome. Very much looking forward to hearing that. And again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.